Welcome to the Ambrogio Remote App tutorial. In this tutorial we will navigate around the app using an Android device. I will show the remote functions which are available on all Elite models. I will also show the basic setup features so that your robot can start to work. These include the following: weekly time schedule settings as shown in the user manual, return to charge settings, and garden settings specific to your lawn sizes. See here we've got a map of the lawn we're going to use to set up the robot in the examples that we'll show in the next tutorial. The total area of the lawn is 700 square meters. We've got a diagram in there showing how you will see the working time schedules in the manual. The first part of our tutorial is with Bluetooth connection. We're going to complete a setup. We're going to use the plan that we've shown in the video earlier with a garden size of 700 square meters, and we're going to use 3 areas. We're going to set the robot working time schedules up as according to the user manual, and we're also going to set up each of the areas. So let's begin. So we connect with the robot via Bluetooth. You'll see the bottom half of the screen there, just above the green ribbon, there is a Bluetooth icon. We're going to click onto that. Then we'll open up another screen there where it says connect, which we will do. So you can see it says please wait, and the moment we'll be connected with our robot. In Bluetooth connection, we do need to be near to the robot, either next to the robot or certainly within Bluetooth reach. So the first thing we're going to go to is the setup, and in the setup we then go to mower settings, and you'll see the first icon there first window shows date and time. Each time you connect to the robot with Bluetooth, it will automatically connect the robot and set the time and the date according to your smart device. So there isn't any need, unless you particularly want to change that for any reason, to change that time. It will automatically do it. If we go into the robot settings, the first thing we want to do is to look at the weekly schedule. And in the weekly schedule there, it opens up the window, and we can see there each day is preset. If we tap our finger on Monday, we'll see that in the first time, a single time for the whole day, we've got a default there of 8:30 to 22:30. We're going to change this to the time working schedules recommended in the user manual for 700 square meters, which are 9 AM until 1900 PM. So that's 9 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the evening. So let's do that. So you'll see there next to the 8:30, 22:30, there is a pencil, which is the edit button. If we tap on that, this will give us the start time of 8:30. There's a slider button on this, which is a little tricky, so we'll get it as near to the 9 o'clock time as we can by sliding that across. There we have it. We'll leave that at 8:55, and then the stop time, we'll edit that to be 1900, or as near to it as we can get. Okay, so we're happy with that time there. You'll see that in the upper part of that white box there is a tick box next to the time. If we tick that, we've now saved that time there. If we slide that screen down, you'll see that in those bars, in the weekly schedule bars, that the Monday is different to the rest of the week. If we tap and hold our finger on Monday, it opens up a window where we're able to copy Monday into every other day. So we'll do that: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and press the OK button. Now it's edited all those areas there to be the same time. We also want to have a look, if we go back into the weekly schedule, we've changed that. We'll open up the window again. It also gives us the facility to be able to use a border clean. So below the areas there, A1 to A8, remember we're only using 3. The robot has the border cut facility, which can be enabled or disabled. So again, if we press the edit button here, we're happy with that. And if we just click on enabled, so on Monday now we have the border clean enabled. The border clean is where the robot leaves the base station, travels all the way around the perimeter wire with the blades operating to clean the grass up over the perimeter wire. We call that a border clean. So we have that in Monday enabled. If we hold our finger on Monday and copy that into Thursday, we will now have a border clean in both Monday enabled and Thursday enabled. And just to show you that isn't on every day, if we look into Wednesday there, we can see that's disabled. So that's set up the weekly scheduled times for the area of 700 square metres. If we come down there, we're now next going to the garden settings. So the garden settings is the area we can change the each area size. So we have 700 square metres. We're going to divide those by 3, giving us 233 square metres per area. And for area 1, we're going to ask the robot to start just 10 metres away from the base station in an anti-clockwise direction. For area 2, we're going to ask the robot to travel 50 metres in a clockwise direction to reach that area, turn around and start to mow. And then for area 3, the distance is 60 metres, and we're going to ask the robot to travel from the base station a distance of 60 metres in an anti-clock direction. So let's start with that. So if we pop our finger on to the area settings for start point A1, edit that, we're able to change that to 2, 2, 3, 3. Just do that again. So the area size for that is 233 square metres. The distance it's going to travel, we're going to ask it to travel 10 metres. And for this purpose of this, it says distance wire, so we're going to ask it to travel over the wire. So with the wire in the setting the off position, the robot will follow exactly over the wire to get to that start point. And we're going to ask it to go clockwise. You'll see below that is eco mode, and the eco mode is disabled. I would only use eco mode on a very small area. So if the area of we're cutting is overall less than 100 square metres, then use eco mode. What eco mode does, the function is that the robot leaves the base station and it travels into the lawn and works for half an hour, 30 minutes. If in 30 minutes the blade requires no current, so there's no grass to cut, the blade's not being asked drawing any extra current to cope with any grass cutting, it will say there's no grass to cut and therefore go back to the base station, back to the charge station. It will remain in the charge station until the next day's schedule. So if you've got eco mode set in your areas and your areas are much bigger than 100 square metres, it may be that the area that it's going to doesn't have. So we've set up the area 1 there. We're now going to set up area 2. Area 2 here. And for this one, area 2, the area again will be 233 square metres. The distance we're going to ask this to travel is going to be 50 metres in a clockwise direction. So we'll edit that to 50 metres. We're going to ask this to travel to that area just inside the lawn. So this position here where it says distance wire is the robot running inside the lawn, parallel with the wire, that lets the robot get to that start point quicker than following the wire, and also eliminates some of the marking that you may have if in all the areas you're choosing the robot to follow the wire to either go to a start point or go back to the charge person. So in this case we're going to choose minimum, I'm going to ask it to go clockwise. The default's already set there. We're not going to use the eco mode. So if we tick the box at the top there, that's area 2 set. We now go to area 3. And again, that distance is 233. And in this case, the distance is 60 metres. The distance we're going to ask it to travel is off the wire is minimum, so we're going to have it travelling inside the lawn. And the direction to get to that area is anti-clockwise. So we've now set up all of the area settings that we need. So at this stage now, in tutorial 1, we're going to finish. We've set up the area, so we've got the weekly schedule set up, the times, the robot set up, and we've got the area set up. So that completes that part. Part 2 of this tutorial is we're going to look at the cloud information that we can see off the app. So I've opened up the app and we see now Frankie. We're looking at the robot called Frankie, and we can see now that the current status says that the robot is charging. I've got this robot operating in a training area within the Ambrogio UK building, so I'm actually able to see that the robot is charging. And if you notice there that the last update is now, if there's a time and a date in that particular box, then the status and the connection via the cloud isn't live, and so you'll have to wait until the GSM card in the robot connects with the cloud and creates a connection there to change that status to now. We can see that the last week, the amount of work robot this worked is 3 hours. So let's have a look at the things that we can change in the cloud remotely, away from the robot, any place, any time, anywhere in the world. First of all, we'll look at the profiles. So these profiles can be preset in the Bluetooth connection, and we can have 3 different weekly schedules of cutting time. So if in this particular case, on profile 1, we've got the robot set up to cut from 9 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the evening. If we wanted to have profile 2 for that to be cutting, say 12 until 10 o'clock, and in profile 3 another time, we can remotely change between these time settings. In the command buttons, we can either ask the robot to stay in the base station until a certain time, to work until a certain time, or complete a border cut. So first of all, we'll look at the working. So we'll go to work until. So from here, we can ask the robot to go to a particular area. In our case, we've got 3 areas set up. We're going to ask it to go to area 1. So we're going to change the time here just to let it cut. So 10 o'clock's there. We'll just change that to 11 o'clock. Okay. We're going to ask it to go to area 1, and we're going to send that command to the robot via the cloud. We can see now that the status of the robot has changed, and it now says that the robot is working. We can, in the commands button again, we can go to the charge until. In the charge until, we can ask the robot to go back to the charge station when it's working, or indeed, if it's in the charge station, tell it to remain there until a certain time. So we're going to change the time now again to be 11 o'clock, just for the purpose of this, okay? And we're going to ask it to go back to the workstation, to charge station. Today is Tuesday. We're going to ask it to go to the charge station Tuesday. If I just send that command, the command has been successful. And we can see that the status in the screen there has changed from working to going to station. So we'll just wait a few moments for the robot to go to the charge station. So it's just a metre or so to travel. And when it travels into the charge station, we'll see that the status changes from go to station to charging. So there we can see that function there. So also in the commands button, we can see that there is the command to send the robot for a border cut. If we tap the border cut, the robot presently is in the charge station. It will leave the charge station and travel directly over the wire all around the perimeter to give us a border clean. And we can see there that the status of the robot has changed. and it now says we've got a border cut on. Those are the things that we can see remotely. We can send a command, so we can change the working time schedules of the robot for preset times, and we can command the robot to either work or charge. If we look at the bottom bit of the screen there, we can also see that we've got a geolocation of the robot. In this case it says home, and it's showing inside our building here, so that's showing inside the building, and we can zoom in and out of that to get a more precise position, so it shows in the building there. Okay, so those are the information that we can draw from the robot in the iCloud, in the cloud connection. If we also look at the information here, we can also, in this screen here, in more info, have a look at the statistics. We can click on that and we're able to see in here the activity of the robot as well. So in the more info button, if we go on statistics here, we're able to look at the activity of the robot either today or within the last 7 days or within the last 30 days. So that completes part 2 of the tutorial, giving you an overview of what we can see from the cloud connection. So in part 3 of this tutorial, we're going to show you some of the more advanced setups, the other features that we can see in Bluetooth connection with the robot. So once again here we're going to choose Frankie to connect. So we'll go to the setup, and let's first of all look at the mower setup. That's going to connect to the robot via Bluetooth. So once again we need to be near to the robot to carry out this function. So let's just have an overview of these again. So if we look at the date and time settings in the top, that's correct. Every time that you connect with the robot via Bluetooth, it will automatically set the time and date up. If we look in the robot settings, we'll first talk about the profile settings. These profile settings we can change between profile 1, 2 and 3, and then change. If we go to profile 2, we can then edit the weekly time schedule so that we've got 3 different time schedules for the robot to operate on. We've already covered the weekly schedule. In the charge settings, we have 3 options there for how the robot will return to the charge station. You'll see there we've got off. In the off position, the robot will follow the wire, directly over the wire, back to the charge station. This is the setting that you would generally use, especially if your lawn's a little more complex, with obstacles within a metre of the perimeter edge, or you've got narrow passageways for the robot to travel through to get from one area of grass to another area of grass. In the minimum position, the robot will travel back to the charge station in a parallel movement away from the wire of less than 50 centimetres, and in the maximum position it will show a distance of less than a metre away. So you can try these. Generally speaking, you'll have the robot travelling on the wire to get back to the base station, but if you've a more open lawn, experiment with the other 2 settings there. Place the robot on the non-entry side of the base station, send the robot home on the keypad with it set either in the minimum or the maximum position, and see what the activity of the robot is. See if the environment for the robot suits these positions, these different settings here. So in the rain setting, the default setting is on. In the on position, if the robot senses rain or moisture between the probes that are on top of the keypad, it will remain in the charge station for 2 hours and then try again. In the off position, it will ignore this rain setting and it will enable it to operate in all conditions. The delay button here allows you to alter the amount of time that the robot will stay in the charge station if it recognises rain. It may well be that to start with you choose to have the rain sensor off, and then it's certainly for the first maybe week or so you can check that the robot is operating within the weekly schedule that you want it to do. If you're happy with that, you can then after that time change the rain setting to on. From the Bluetooth connection you're also able to change the work mode type, so it's on the auto button at present, so the auto light will be lit up on the keypad next to where it says auto, and in this mode the robot will operate via and obey the working time schedule that you've set up. If you change that to manual, then this light will then disappear, so the auto LED light, the green light will disappear, and now the robot will remain in the base station and only operate when either you press the commands button in the app and command it to work until a certain time, or indeed if you walk to the robot and press the start button, the robot will leave the base station and start to operate under your keypad command. We've covered the garden settings here. Note that in this area here, when you go there, it does actually tell you what each of the commands does, so you can have a read of those to see what they do on top of what I've already told you in the tutorial. So if we just tick off that, go back into the mower settings. Remember that when you've changed the setting, you can see there's a tick box at the top of the screen. You'll need to click the tick box to save the setting when you change it. If we now look at the installation settings, this is the main setting that you're going to be looking at in here. So if we look at the wire setting, the wire setting is the top one, and in the wire setting, this is the distance the robot travels when it arrives at the perimeter wire in working mode. It's the distance it travels beyond the wire, so the front of the robot travels. Generally speaking, although the default is max, I would set it at minimum, therefore the least distance over the wire. If you've got a lot of flushed areas, so you've got paving and tiles that are flush with the lawn, where the wire is set at maybe 5 centimetres from the edge, as opposed to 20 centimetres in a 20 platform, which is the one we're working on now, then you might want to try the medium or the max position. That's that one. The one below that is the air marker. So this is the distance from the charge station that the robot recognises the charge station, and we can alter that forward or back. Really an installer setting, this. The third one in here is the docking shift. So if you're noting as the robot enters the dock station, the charge station, it's not entering centrally, you can alter this to be either further to the right or further to the left. So that's the installation settings. In the security here, we're able to change the password. So the password will be the default, which is set in the user manual. You'll then put the new password in and repeat the password. These are 4 numbers. So we can do that here. So I'm not going to actually click the factory reset button, but just bear in mind that if you press the factory reset button, this will return the robot back to the default setting as you took it out of the box. So just be careful when you press, because in this mode here, it will return it. So it may be only one setting needs to be changed, but you've pressed the factory reset and you've got to start all over again. So just bear that in mind with the factory reset. May well be that when you set up the robot, you didn't configure the connect car module to start with through the wizard. If you didn't, and then you want to connect it, or you're connecting on another device, in the configure the connect module here, this will connect, and it's done it very quickly on this robot because we've already done it. And then below that we've got the geofence alarm. In here we can set up the distance, the radius on the lawn that we want to recognise the area where the robot is. Okay, if you then confirm that, then that's enabled the geofence alarm. It means if someone were to pick the robot up and take it outside that radius, it would send remotely a notification, and also it will tell you the location of that. In communicating with your dealer or the Ambrogio UK, it may be we ask you to send a report from the robot. The reason for this might be that there's some setting on the robot, some lack of understanding that the dealer or us here at Ambrogio UK don't understand, and we will say, look, could you send us a report? This is really a very, very good way for us to understand the settings that you've set the robot. So let's just show you how to do that. In the history here, if we click on history, and we can set up a couple of days. We only need the last 2 operational days of the robot. So today's the 20th, so we're going to set it up for the 19th of the 20th. We're then going to press the save button and then show the results. This is now downloading the logs of the robot. The longer that we set the dates, the longer this will take. Once we've done that, we're going to then share this report, this file, with either your dealer or indeed us here at Ambrogio UK. You'll see there at the top of the screen there in the green ribbon, there's a share button. So if we just click the share button, this will open up a screen that will ask you how you want to share it. I would advise that you share this with email. We're going to type in our workshops here. You can see it there, and we're going to share that report by putting the send button, and we've sent that. It may be in here that there's a setting. For example, say that you set up eco mode and didn't mean to set up eco mode when you were setting up the garden settings. We'll see that straight away and say, look, you've got the eco setting on here. How big is your lawn area? Is that actually a suitable setup for your robot? It may be that the rain sensor is off and you're saying to us, well, look, the rain robots. So there could be lots of reasons why we can look at those settings and see very quickly if there's an error in the setup that we can see and report back to you. So there we have it. That completes all of the advanced settings. You may want to search through that yourself. So that's completed part 3 of this tutorial. Thank you very much.